In your world today, you've been conditioned to believe that effort, struggle, and constant striving are the pathways to your desires. The world teaches you to push harder, to fight more fiercely, to compete more intensely. But I tell you this, the very act of trying is the confession that you do not have. And as long as you are trying to get something, you are confirming its absence in your experience. In your experience. As long as you are trying to get something, you are confirming its absence in your experience. In your experience. You are confirming its absence in your experience. Let me share with you a principle that I know to be true, not as theory, but as a law I have proven countless times. The more you try to get something, the more you push it away. This is the law of reverse effort, and it operates with mathematical precision in our universe. When you try to get something, you are automatically confessing that you don't have it. And what you confess, you possess. I think about it for a moment. When you try to fall asleep, does sleep come? No, the harder you try, the more elusive sleep becomes. When you try to remember a name, does it come to you? No. It's only when you stop trying, when you relax your mind, that the name flows effortlessly into your consciousness. This is the secret I'm sharing with you tonight. In your experience. In your experience. As long as you are trying to get something, you are confirming its absence in your experience. In your experience. You are confirming its absence in your experience. Now let me take you to scripture, for the Bible is the greatest psychological document ever written. In the book of Matthew, it is written, "Therefore I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours." Notice carefully the tense used here. It doesn't say believe you will receive it, but believe that you have received it. This is the key to all manifestation. The great error of humanity is that they're trying to get what they already have. You are trying to become what you already are. The very moment you desire something, that which you desire already exists in what I call your imaginal act. It is already yours in the spiritual realm. And the spiritual realm is the cause, while the physical realm is but the effect. In your experience. In your experience. As long as you are trying to get something, you are confirming its absence in your experience. In your experience. You are confirming its absence in your experience. Let me share with you a personal experience. Years ago when I was in Barbados, I desired to go to America. Everyone told me it was impossible during wartime. The quota was small and the waiting list was long. But I discovered this principle I'm sharing with you tonight. Instead of trying to get to America, I assumed I was already there. I lived in the end, in the feeling of already being in America. I walked the streets of New York, in my imagination. Winter air on my face. I saw the tall buildings, I lived from that state of consciousness. I did not try to get there. I lived as though I was already there. And then the most extraordinary series of events unfolded. A man I had never met facilitated my journey. And within months, I was standing on the very streets I had walked in my imagination. You see, the secret is not in the trying, but in the assuming of the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Now, let me show you how this principle operates in every area of your life. Whether it's money, love, health, or success, the law remains the same. The moment you stop trying to get it and simply assume you have it, the entire universe reorganizes itself to make it so. But you must understand, this is not positive thinking or wishful thinking. This is the law of consciousness. Consider this. Everything in your world is pushed out of your consciousness. Your consciousness is the only reality. When you try to get something, you are pushing out the consciousness of lack, of not having. But when you assume you already have it, when you live in the end, you push out the consciousness of possession, of having. Let me give you a technique I have taught to thousands, and it has never failed when properly applied. Instead of trying to get what you want, every night as you lay down to sleep, assume you already have it. Feel the naturalness of having it. Create a scene that implies the fulfillment of your desire. Feel the joy, the satisfaction, the completeness of possession. Then fall asleep in that state. You see, sleep is the state of consciousness where your subconscious mind is most receptive. As you fall asleep feeling you already have what you desire, you are impregnating your subconscious with the seed of fulfillment. And just as the seed must fall into the earth and die to its current form to be reborn as something greater, your conscious mind must fall into the sleep state while holding the feeling of fulfillment. Holding the feeling of fulfillment. Your conscious mind must fall into the sleep state while holding the feeling of fulfillment. When it says, the kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed, which a man took and planted in his field. Your desire, planted in the fertile soil of your subconscious mind through the feeling of fulfillment, must grow and manifest in your world. But remember, you must stop trying. Trying implies effort, and effort implies lack. Instead, live in the absolute assumption that what you desire is already yours. Feel its reality now. Experience the joy of possession now. Let every action, every word, every thought spring from the consciousness of already being what you want to be, having what you want to have, what you want to have. Many of you may be thinking, but Neville, how can I assume something is mine when my senses tell me otherwise? This is where the art of consciousness comes into play. Your physical senses show you the harvest of your previous assumption. They show you the effects, not the cause. The cause lies in your consciousness, and that is where the change must take place. When you walk into your room at night, you don't try to get light. You simply flick the switch, assuming the light will come on. You don't stand there trying to make the light appear. You act with the absolute confidence that the light will respond to your action. This is how you must be with all your desires.
Instead of trying to get what you want every night, as you lay down to sleep, assume you have it. Instead of trying to get what you want every night, as you lay down to sleep, assume you have it all.
Let me share another principle that few understand. The outside world is dead. It has no power to give you anything or take anything away. It is simply responding to your consciousness. When you try to change things on the outside without changing your consciousness, you are like someone trying to change their reflection in the mirror without changing their face. Your world is yourself pushed out. Every person, every circumstance, every event in your life is yourself pushed out. When you try to change them through effort, you are working on the reflection. But when you change your consciousness, when you assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, the reflection must change. The reflection must change. The reflection must change. When you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, the reflection must change. The reflection must change. The reflection must change. The reflection must change. Oh, ye had little faith. The reflection must change. This is why scripture tells us, be still and know that I am God. This stillness is not physical stillness, but the stillness of trying. It is the cessation of effort. It is the complete acceptance that what you desire is already yours. Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They toil not, neither do they spin. Yet Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. This is not a lesson in laziness, but a profound spiritual truth. The lily doesn't try to grow. It grows by allowing the life force within it to express itself perfectly. You are that lily. Your desires are the perfect pattern of your unfolding. But when you try to force them into being, you interfere with the perfect pattern. You introduce struggle where there should be only allowance. The reflection must change. The reflection must change. The reflection must change. When you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, the reflection must change. The reflection must change. The reflection must change. The reflection must change. Oh, ye had little faith. The reflection must change. The reflection must change. Must change. Let me give you a practical exercise. Tonight, when you go home, take your desire, whatever it may be, and create a scene that would imply its fulfillment. Make it as natural as possible. If your desire is for a new home, feel yourself living in that home. Feel the texture of the furniture. Walk from room to room. Feel the joy of ownership. Then, and this is crucial, don't try to make it happen. Simply know that by feeling the reality of it, you have set in motion the law that must bring it into your physical experience. Your physical experience. Remember, the feeling is the secret. Feeling is the secret. Not the trying, not the effort, but the feeling. Remember, the feeling is the secret. Feeling is the secret. Not the trying, not the effort, but the feeling. Feel as you would feel if your desire were already a physical fact. Persist in that feeling and watch how life rearranges itself to match your assumption. Now let me address something that often confuses people. They ask, but Neville, doesn't this mean we should do nothing? No, that's not what I'm teaching. Action will come, but it will be inspired action, not forced action. When you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you will be moved to take whatever action is necessary, but it will feel natural and effortless. Remember, the feeling is the secret. Feeling is the secret. Not the trying, not the effort, but the feeling. Remember, the feeling is the secret. Feeling is the secret. Not the trying, not the effort, but the feeling. Think of a composer writing music. He doesn't try to compose, he listens inwardly and records what he hears. Think of a great artist painting. They don't try to paint, they allow the image within to express itself through them. This is how you must be with your desires. The great secret is this: the feeling of the wish fulfilled is the very feeling that seals its fulfillment. The more you try to get it, the more you affirm its absence. But when you live in the end, when you possess it in consciousness, the trying ceases and the having begins. The trying ceases and the having begins. Remember, the feeling is the secret. Feeling is the secret. Not the trying, not the effort, but the feeling. Remember, the feeling is the secret. Feeling is the secret. Not the trying, not the effort, but the feeling. Let me share one more biblical reference that beautifully illustrates this principle. Before they call, I will answer. And while they are yet speaking, I will hear. Before they call, I will answer. And while they are yet speaking, I will hear. This is telling you that the moment you desire something, it is already accomplished in consciousness. Your work is not to get it, but to accept it, to assume it, to live in the end. I want you to grasp this fundamental truth. Everything you want wants you. Everything you desire desires you. Everything you want wants you. Everything you desire desires you. But as long as you try to get it, you create resistance. The moment you assume you have it, all resistance dissolves. Tonight, dare to assume you are what you want to be. Dare to assume you have what you want to have. Don't try to make it happen. Know that it is already done. Live from that assumption and watch the miracle unfold. Remember, consciousness is the only reality. What you are conscious of being and having, you must become and have. The world is yourself pushed out. Change your concept of yourself, and you change your world. Stop trying to get it, and you'll have it. This is the law. This is the law. And there is no other way under heaven by which anything is accomplished. Everything you want wants you. Everything you desire desires you. Everything you want wants you. Everything you desire desires you. And all that you desire is already there, waiting for you to stop trying to get it. Accept it as yours. Now, go in peace, knowing that what I have told you tonight is true. Apply this law, test it, prove it in the laboratory of daily life. For I tell you, with God, all things are possible. And God is your own wonderful human imagination. Human imagination. Human imagination.
I will answer. And while they are yet speaking, I will hear. Before they come, I will answer, and while they are yet speaking, I will hear.
Many of you came to me after our previous discussions asking, but Neville, if I stop trying, won't everything fall apart?
If I stop trying, won't everything fall apart?
Let me tell you a story that will illuminate this principle further. There was a lady in my audience in New York who had been trying to sell her house for 2 years. She had listed it with countless agents, reduced the price repeatedly, and was constantly trying to make the sale happen. After hearing this principle, she did something remarkable. She went home that night and did what I'm teaching you. Instead of trying to sell the house, she assumed it was already sold. She sat in her favorite chair and constructed a scene implying the sale was completed. In her imagination, she held the check in her hands, feeling its crisp texture. She felt the joy and relief of the completed sale. Most importantly, she stopped trying to sell it. Within 1 week, a buyer appeared who purchased the house at her original asking price. You see, the lady's constant trying was her confession of not having, and therefore she could only reap the harvest of not having. The moment she assumed the completed state, the law of consciousness had to operate to bring it into her experience.
If I stop trying, won't everything fall apart? If I stop trying, won't everything fall apart?
Let me take you deeper into scripture, for remember the Bible is not telling the story of historical events, but is revealing eternal psychological truth. Consider the story of the Israelites trying to enter the promised land. For 40 years they wandered in the wilderness, trying to reach their destination. But it was only when they stopped trying, when they followed the instruction to stand still and see the salvation of the Lord, that the walls of Jericho fell and they entered their promised land. This is not just a historical account, it is your story. Your desire is your promised land. And your trying is your wilderness wandering. The The walls of Jericho represent all the seeming obstacles between you and your desire. But these walls fall not by effort, but by assumption.
If I stop trying, won't everything fall apart? If I stop trying, won't everything fall apart? If I stop trying, won't everything fall apart? If I stop trying, won't everything fall apart?
Now, let me give you a practical technique that I call the Sabbath. In scripture, God rested on the seventh day, not because he was tired, but because the work was done. This is your guide. When you properly assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you too must rest from your mental labor of trying to make it happen.
Akira.
This is your Sabbath. This is your guide. In scripture, God rested on the seventh day, not because he was tired, but because the work was done. This is your Sabbath. This is your guide. In scripture, God rested on the seventh day, not because he was tired, but because the work was done. Every time you find yourself trying to make something happen, catch yourself and remember that trying is a confession of absence. Instead, assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled and rest in that assumption. This is what it means to enter into his rest. Consider how you operate when you truly have something. When you have money in the bank, do you try to have it? No, you simply know it's there. When you are in your own home, do you try to be there? Of course not. You simply are there. This is how you must be with your desires. This is your Sabbath. This is your guide. In scripture, God rested on the seventh day, not because he was tired, but because the work was done. This is your Sabbath. This is your guide. In scripture, God rested on the seventh day, not because he was tired, but because the work was done. Here's a profound truth. The universe cannot give you what you want. It can only give you what you are. What you are. What you are. It can only give you what you are. Let me share another principle that few understand. Your consciousness is God's gift to you, but what you do with it is your gift to God. When you try to get something, you are essentially telling God that his gift is incomplete, that something is missing. But when you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you are accepting the gift in its completeness. Many of you have asked me about taking action. Never you say, if I stop trying, should I stop doing? No, my dear friends, action will still occur. But it will be inspired action rather than desperate action. When you assume the state of the wish fulfilled, you will be moved to take whatever action is necessary, but it will feel natural and effortless.
Akira.
Think of a bird building its nest. It doesn't try to build, it simply follows its inner pattern. The action flows naturally from its state of consciousness. This is how your action should flow. Not from trying, but from being. Here's a profound truth. The universe cannot give you what you want. It can only give you what you are. what you are. What you are. It can only give you what you are. As long as you are trying to get something, you are being someone who lacks that thing. But when you assume the consciousness of having it, you become someone who has it, and the universe must respond accordingly. Let me give you another technique to apply this principle. I call it the morning watch. When you first wake up in the morning, before you engage with the world, take a few moments to establish the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Don't try to make your day good, assume it is good. Don't try to be successful, assume you are successful. Start each day not by trying to get what you want, but by assuming you already have it. Here's a profound truth. The universe cannot give you what you want. It can only give you what you are. What you are. What you are. It can only give you what you are. Here's a profound truth. The universe cannot give you what you want. It can only give you what you are. What you are. What you are. It can only give you what you are. Remember the words of scripture. Let the weak say I am strong. Notice it doesn't say let the weak try to become strong. This is the law of assumption in operation. You assume the state you desire to express, and that assumption persisted in will harden into fact. Consider your own experience. When you know something with absolute certainty, you try to know it. No, trying comes only with uncertainty. This is why I tell you, the feeling of certain of already having or being what you desire is the key to manifestation. Many of you are wondering about the time it takes for your assumption to become your physical reality. Remember, time is not a distance we travel. It is a bridge we cross in consciousness. The moment you fully assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you have crossed that bridge. What appears as time is simply the journey of that assumption through the dimensions of your world.
The dimensions of your world. Time is not a distance to be traveled. It's a bridge we cross in consciousness.
Through the dimensions of your world.
Through the dimensions of your world. Time is not a distance to be traveled, but a bridge we cross in consciousness.
Let me share another secret. The feeling of relief is one of the most powerful feelings you can cultivate. When you try to get something, you feel tension, but when you have something, you feel relief. This is why it's so important to capture and maintain the feeling of relief that comes with fulfillment. I've taught thousands of students, and those who succeed are invariably those who master this art of feeling relief instead of trying. They learn to live from the end instead of trying to reach the end. They understand that the end is where we begin, not where we arrive. Now some of you might be thinking, but Neville, my desire seems so big, so impossible. Let me remind you of something. Size exists only in the world of effects, not in consciousness. In consciousness, the oak is not bigger than the acorn. They are the same thing in different states. Your desire, no matter how grand it seems, is not bigger than your capacity to assume its fulfillment. This is why scripture tells us all things are possible to him that believeth. Notice it doesn't say to him that tries, but to him that believeth. Belief is not trying to believe. It is the feeling of knowing. When you know something, you don't try to know it. You simply know it. Through the dimensions of your world.
The dimensions of your world. Time is not a distance to be traveled. It's a bridge we cross in consciousness.
Through the dimensions of your world.
The dimensions of your world. Time is not a distance to be traveled, but a bridge we cross in consciousness.
dimensions of your world.
This is how your consciousness works. It draws to you whatever you assume to be true. This is how your consciousness works. It draws to you whatever you assume to be true.
Akira.
Let me tell you about one of my most remarkable students. She was a woman who had been deaf in one ear for over 40 years. Medical science had declared her condition permanent. But she understood this principle deeply. Instead of trying to hear, she assumed she was hearing perfectly. She didn't try to heal her ear. She simply lived from the assumption of perfect hearing. Within 2 months, her hearing was completely restored by her doctors. This brings us to what I call the law of perpetual creation. Every moment of your life you are creating through your assumptions. When you try to get something, you are assuming you don't have it, and therefore creating more of not having it. This is why it's so crucial to master your assumptions.
This is how your consciousness works. It draws to you whatever you assume to be true. This is how your consciousness works. It draws to you whatever you assume to be true.
Here's a practical exercise I call the daily reset. 3 times each day, morning, noon, night, take a moment to reset your assumptions. Ask yourself, if I had what I desire, what would I be assuming right now? Then assume that. Don't try to make it true. Know that your assumption makes it true. Remember the biblical story of the prodigal son. Notice that the father didn't try to make his son return. He assumed the return in his heart. And that assumption drew the son home.
This is how your consciousness works. It draws to you whatever you assume to be true. This is how your consciousness works. It draws to you whatever you assume to be true. This is how your consciousness works. It draws to you whatever you assume to be true. This is how your consciousness works. It draws to you whatever you assume to be true.
This is how your consciousness works. It draws to you whatever you assume to be true. The mirror method. When you look in the mirror, don't try to see what you want to see. Instead, assume you are seeing what you want to see. Your physical reflection may not change immediately, but persist in this assumption, and your reflection must conform to your consciousness. Persist in this assumption, and your reflection must conform to your consciousness. Your consciousness. Persist in this assumption, and your reflection must conform to your consciousness. Your consciousness. Persist in this assumption, the mirror method. Now, some of you might be wondering about action. Remember this principle? Right action flows naturally from right consciousness. When you assume the state of your wish fulfilled, you will be moved to take whatever action is necessary. But it will be inspired action, not desperate action. Consider how you act when you have something you once wanted. There's no trying, no forcing, no struggling. You simply act from the state of having it. This is how you should act now, from the assumption of already being or having what you desire. Let me address those of you who are impatient for results. Impatience is just another form of trying. When you truly assume something is yours, you become patient because you know it's already yours. The seed doesn't try to become a tree. It contains the tree and naturally becomes it. Your consciousness. Your consciousness. Persist in this assumption, and your reflection must conform to your consciousness. Your consciousness. Persist in this assumption, the mirror method. Your consciousness. Your consciousness. Persist in this assumption, and your reflection must conform to your consciousness. Your consciousness. Persist in this assumption, the mirror method. Here's what I call the Sabbath state. In this state, you rest from all trying because you know it is finished. This doesn't mean you become inactive. It means you act from the certainty of fulfillment, rather than the uncertainty of trying to achieve. Remember, every time you find yourself trying, it's your signaling. Don't try to stop trying, that's more trying. Instead, simply assume the state where trying is unnecessary, because you already have what you desire, the mirror method. When you look in the mirror, don't try to see what you want to see. Instead, assume you are seeing what you want to see. Persist in this assumption, and your reflection must conform to your consciousness. Your consciousness. Persist in this assumption, and your reflection must conform to your consciousness. Your consciousness. Persist in this assumption, the mirror method. Your consciousness. Your consciousness. Persist in this assumption, and your reflection must conform to your consciousness. Your consciousness. Persist in this assumption, the mirror method. As we conclude tonight, let me leave you with this final truth. You are not going to get what you want. You are going to get what you are. Therefore, instead of trying to get something, be the person who already has it. Live from that assumption and watch as your world reshapes itself to match your new state of consciousness. The practice is simple, but it requires vigilance. Watch your assumptions as carefully as you would watch your step in a dangerous place. Your assumptions are creating your future right now.
You're not gonna get what you want. You're gonna get what you want. You're not gonna get what you want. You're gonna get what you want. You're not gonna get what you want. You're gonna get what you want. You're not gonna get what you want. You're gonna get what you want.
Remember this principle of stop trying to get it, and you'll have it. It's not just a technique. It's a fundamental law of consciousness. It operates whether you believe in it or not. Just as gravity operates whether you believe in it or not. Go forth now not to try but to assume, not to become but to be, not to get but to have. For in consciousness, where all creation takes place, what you assume as true is true. And what you believe you have, you have.
You're not gonna get what you want. You're gonna get what you want. You're not gonna get what you want. You're gonna get what you want. Not gonna get what you want. You're gonna get what you want. Not gonna get what you want. You're gonna get what you want.
And now, my dear friends, our discussion comes to a close. But remember, what you've heard tonight is not just information to be remembered. It's truth to be lived. Let every moment of trying become your reminder to assume. Let every appearance of lack become your opportunity to assume abundance. For in the end, it is not the trying but the assuming that creates your world. And when you truly understand this, you will know the peace that comes from ceasing all trying and resting in the assumption of your wish fulfilled.
You're not gonna get what you want. You're gonna get what you want. You're not gonna get what you want. You're gonna get what you want. You're not gonna get what you want. You're gonna get what you want. You're not gonna get what you want. You're gonna get what you want. Gonna get what you want. You're gonna get what you want. You're gonna get what you want. You're gonna get what you want. Gonna get what you want. You're gonna get what you want. Gonna get what you want. You're gonna get what you want.
Good night, and God bless you all.